Mr. talks or reports about negotiation with Niger Delta militants, and then reports about threats to blow up pipelines and more threats to blow up more pipelines. We're talking about security in the region today. And we're joined by Rear Admiral Ni Oshinawa, who is the Chief of Training and Operations, Naval Headquarters here in Abuja. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, the thing about this is that, yes, much as the country looks forward to see how we can get a solution to this challenge we're facing in the Niger Delta, and then I just have to ask, what is the current situation now in terms of military operations or engagement in the region?
Thank you. You may probably need to know that the experiences within the past 1 year has been quite instructive in every sense. First, within the past year, we have seen the significant drop in crude oil prices, and we also witnessed the significant effort by the military to check not only the crude oil theft, but the illegal refinery, as well as the damage to oil pipeline and other associated oil and gas infrastructure. Now, by the turn of the year, specifically after the elections in some of the states in the Niger Delta, we witnessed significant upsurge in the criminality within the waterways and outside, that's within the offshore. And after that, a number of efforts were initiated by the military to curb these criminalities. But it will also be of interest for us to know that after that, we saw the criminals moving offshore to attack ships, kidnaps, hijack, and of recent, we are now in an era where there is a deliberate attack on oil and gas infrastructure, not just to steal crude oil now because it's no longer fashionable for them, but rather to embarrass the nation as they have promised. You have the Niger Delta Avengers and other groups, and by the turn of the year, we had just about 2 or 3 of these groups who have come out to declare their intention. And we must give credit to the political level for all the efforts initiated to enter into dialogue with the agitated groups. However, we have also seen that since the federal government also stepped up these negotiations, we have equally seen that they have multiplied from about 4 to about over 30 now, making claims, as I also read in the papers of another group yesterday, making claims. And you begin to wonder the sincerity of the efforts and the complementary efforts by all the various groups, the communities, to douse and abate the problems we're having. By the end of the day, who suffers? Many of the states cannot meet up with their revenue, cannot meet up with what they're expected to make available to fund infrastructure, but salaries.
At the moment, the Navy has taken up several key positions in the region, haven't they? Because there's been several reports that they are indeed ready to move in at the directive of the CNC.
I can assure you the Navy and indeed the other services are fully prepared for that. But as the classical explanation goes, military solution or military activity are meant to probably resolve political problems. And political problems usually emanate from economic problems. And some also view that all these problems can be solved with technology and development. For the military, we are very much happy with the situation and the effort at the political level to resolve this problem. Whereas the current posture of some of the militants may eventually lead to some stronger response by the military. But every restraint is being put in place to ensure that only those who are not ready to comply and to cooperate with the federal government will have case to answer.
You know, there are those who argue that what's going on right now, the Navy hasn't come to terms with the enormity of what they have to contend with. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely not. I should hesitate to agree with you on that. Rather, we are taking measured steps to identify the criminals, to make sure the collateral effect of any action we're taking is limited. We have, for instance, most of the news and reports of attack on the pipelines, they are concentrated practically in just one or two major areas.
So when you say, if I may comment, when you say taking deliberate steps, is it possible for you to outline some of the steps you're taking? Does that also include dialogue with the residents of the region as well?
That includes dialogue. It also includes identification of the masterminds and the criminals who are involved in all these various forms of attack, both within the creeks and offshore. And as I was about to explain, you have, for instance, two major areas where most of these attacks are concentrated, where you also know there is one of the ex-militant leaders who controls this area. And if you check it geospatially, that is a problem we have. So it's very evident where the problem is coming from. And offshore, we have also seen the involvement of various criminal groups involved in attacks on shipping, whereby some of them are even crew, members of crew of some of these vessels. They concoct their own kidnap, making the owners of the vessels and the wider public believe there was actually a kidnap or there's an attack on such a vessel.
What would you say, sorry to interrupt you, but what would you say to the people who say that the Navy slept on its watch, especially with regards to the problem in the Niger Delta?
Well, the Niger Delta is the third largest delta globally, or is the most troubled, with thousands of creeks, communities living therein, and the millions. And if you have to police this area, you need to do it not as if you're in a war situation, but rather to police, to protect the citizenry and the commercial activities around the waterways, both internal and offshore. We have been deliberate in taking an action not to actually disturb the peace of the communities.
The reason I ask this is because there are people who, you know, it would seem that after the 2009 amnesty granted by the government of then President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, that everybody thought all was well and, you know, simply went to bed and there was nothing more to be done. But it was seen that there was a report, here. I don't know if the military was able to see that report that predicted, it was a report done in April 2013 that predicted that in perhaps a year or two, the violence could actually come back to the Niger Delta, especially in the face of the upcoming 2015 elections, as at that time. Was it something that the military envisaged?
Definitely that was assessed, envisaged, and it's not as if the necessary proactive measures were not put in place. But when you look at the situation in the Niger Delta, you have pipelines running to the hundreds of thousands of kilometers, passing through the backyards within the communities. That makes that soft targets. We did, and we are indeed put in place significant measures to protect most of these facilities. We have established the choke point management regime to actually make sure the strategic points through which we know that many of these criminals pass through are manned, protected, and that has significantly led to reduction.
So the emphasis was on protecting pipelines, not engaging with people they thought could, go back to militancy.
The federal government has established agencies and organs that are responsible for this. To the best of our knowledge, we have been seeing them in action. We have been cooperating and assisting them as necessary to make sure that the militants are engaged. You are aware of the amnesty program and all the benefits that are derived from the program itself. We have put this in place. We have been involved in sensitizing the public, and that has worked, particularly the seafarers, and that has worked pretty well.